Hi, grandkids. Sorry, it's been a little while since Grandma has recorded any chapters. So I'm on where the Lillies Bloom, chapter 6. The peaks of the mountains were enveloped in shaggy drifts of undulating, translucent fog. Quite descriptive words. I blamed it on the mountain air. How it hurt to breathe. As Romy and I pushed and pulled the creaking wagon, on the top of which Romy had constructed a makeshift bed to contain the shrouded figure, strained upward toward Roy Luther's final resting place on Old Joshua. The shovel we'd tied alongside him clanked a little with each turn and jolt. At one point, a raven, black and lustrous, came flapping out from a bush and flew alongside us, his hoarse talk, weird and hollow. Go away, bird, whispered Romy, and it flew off. We went around a fallen tree, and I looked back at Trial Valley, misted white from rim to rim, lonely as a moonscape. Lord, I thought, oh, dearest Lord, please don't let me give out now. It's only up a little ways further. I want to do this decent, Lord. It has to be decent so that afterward I can say to the others that it was, and they'll have that much to remember at least. From out of an empty space, the raven came winging back again and lighted on top of the body in the wagon and again made his sharp metallic cry. I shooed him away with my hand, and he soared upward into the somber air and disappeared. The wagon creaked, and there was the sound of our breathing. The bracken beneath our feet was dew-wet and slick. We were drowned in the dampness and the smudgy darkness. Romy was crying, but trying not to let on to me that he was. We passed under a dripping tree, and small cloud of fog streamed past us. We went over a knobby, exposed root, and the wagon bumped against it, and the figure on it shifted. We felt it do that and stopped. I looked back at Romy and thought his face was blurred. I saw his pain and fear. It isn't anything to be afraid of, I said. It's all in your mind. Come on now, it isn't much further. Hunched and desolate, Romy said, You're awful, Mary Call. This is awful. It shouldn't be done this way. We should have a proper burial. Romy, this is going to be a proper burial. Just as soon as we get him up there, I'll see to it that it's proper. Come on, let's go. No, I'm not going any further. It's awful. It isn't awful, Romy. It's as good as any other kind of burial. Maybe it's even better. It's the way he wanted it. It's what I promised him. I don't care about that. It's awful. You're awful. You think you know everything. You're stingy. We got the money. There's almost $65 in the money can now. Let's take him back and tomorrow go after the undertaker and give him a proper funeral. No, Romy. This is the way he wanted it, and this is the way it's going to be. Come on now, it isn't much further. Let's get on with it. Romy sank to his knees beside the wagon. He put his head down on the rim of it. No, I can't. I don't care what happens. I can't. I don't care if the county people come and get me. Let 'em. If they did, I wouldn't have to look at you anymore. You old stingy gut. You. Be careful now, Romy. You're making me mad. Good. That's what I want you to do. Get mad. I want you to get mad. I hate you. Romy. Oh, shut up, he cried, and stop staring at me. Haven't you got any place else to look? Romy, come on now, Romy. I can't do this by myself. I would if I could, but I can't. You've got to help me, that's all. So come on now and do it. For a long interval he didn't move or speak. The wind above us shivered the tree branches, and again the raven came back and flew around us, but this time didn't alight. Standing there on the gloomy trailway, waiting for Romy to recover, I wondered how I could be so calm, how I could just stand there in the gray darkness with the cold handle of the wagon in my hand and the cold tree moisture dripping down on me and the dead body of my father there before me, and not be afraid of how grisly it all was. It's because I'm tough, I thought. I'm so tough that if a bear came out of the side of the mountain over there, I could knock him cold without even breathing hard. And that's all, and if anybody's got a better idea how I should handle this and all the other things left to me, just let them come on and tell me about it, but I don't hear anybody saying anything. Back in the bushes, the raven said, "Talk, talk." And Romy stood up and passed one hand over his face and said, "I'll get even with everybody someday. You just watch and see if I don't. We'll go on and bury him here now, but someday we'll be back to get him. Someday we'll come back here and get him and take him to the best and biggest cemetery in the whole world, and we'll give him the best and biggest funeral anybody ever had, better even than the one Napoleon Bonaparte had." I said, "Romy, Napoleon Bonaparte didn't have a big flashy funeral. He had a simple one. He was buried in a valley next to a stream he loved beside some willow trees." "You're so smart," muttered Romy, and leaned and straightened Roy Luther's body. He put his hands down on the rim of the wagon, one on each side of the white knob that was Roy Luther's head, and said, "Well, pull if you're going to." Pushing and pulling, we moved upward again over bare rock and again across great patches of moss and lichen, and around trees and through clawing brush. After some little while of this, we came to the stand of black spruce where within Roy Luther had himself prepared his burial site, a hole in the earth 4 or 5 feet deep, covered with stout, broad planks left over from some carpeting job on Kaiser Pease's place. We drew the wagon up close to the edge of the grave, and I said to Romy we should sit and compose ourselves before we commenced, but he wouldn't be still even for 1 second. He was in a fever to be done with the task. He started trying to remove the planks, but they were too heavy, and I had to help him. When they were all laid to one side, we looked down and saw that the hole itself was lined with yet more of them, and in a stout voice, Romy said, "It was a lot of work. It must have taken him a long time to dig down through all this rock." "He must have known it was coming a long time before it did, Mary Call." "Yes," I said. You bawling?" "No." "I didn't think you were. There's nothing to bawl about, is there?" "No." "All this dirt and rock piled up here around. He left it here for us to pile on top, didn't he? So the animals wouldn't get to him." "Yes, I think so. So that's what we'll do then." "Yes, and so should we get on with it?" "No, wait a minute. I want us each to say some good things now, the good things in our hearts that we remember about our father." With his fair head bent reverently and his hands folded priestly, Romy stood beside the wagon, beside the body of our father, and in a lit he said he was gaysome sometimes before he took sick, and when the notion struck him he could be as tough as whitleather. He loved us all through, though he never said so. He never whipped us, and I was proud to have him for my daddy. Excuse me. And now I hope he'll stay peaceful here. "He will," I said. "He will." Romy lifted his head and looked across at me. "Your turn now." Beyond Romy's slight figure, I saw this tree alone and different from the rest. Its branches all streamed back in one direction from the winds that had battered it year on year. It was quiet now because there was no wind, but I could imagine what it looked like in the storm, bending and twisting in the gusts and the rain, resisting with all of its grit the forces that would uproot and destroy it. It looked old and tough, and the sight of it made me feel old and tough. I felt like the tree and I were related. I couldn't think of anything more to say about Roy Luther than had already been said, so I told Romy this, and then together we knelt and said the Lord's Prayer, and then, with some clumsiness, we loosened Roy Luther from his bindings and slid him into his grave. He went in neat. With a shovel, we then covered the grave with the planks and the loose earth and rocks. And I said, "The Lord is your shepherd now, Roy Luther. Be happy with him and don't worry about us." Romy said, "Amen." Going back down the mountain, Romy said he believed that we had given Roy Luther a proper burial. The next morning, right after breakfast, I told Devola and Imogene about Roy Luther. Devola took it quietly, with just a little quick working in her throat, but Imogene put her head against my skirt and cried. Then, when I tried to comfort her, she jerked away and ran out to the yard, snatched up a stick, caught her bantam rooster, and tried to switch him into laying an egg. "Lay an egg," she shouted. "That's what you're here for, so go on and do it, you dumb bird, you. I'm tired of messing around with you. Now, lay an egg, lay an egg." I ran out and pried the stick from her hand, and the wounded rooster, mortified and angered, flew up onto her head and in vengeful fury clawed her hair. She screamed, and I led her back into the house. "Serves you right," I said. "I don't blame him one bit. I'd have clawed you too. He hates me," she sobbed, "and after all I've done for him. If you loved me, you'd go back out there and kill him." Solemnly, Romy regarded her. "Aw, stop being such a baby, Imogene. Nobody else likes it either, but there's nothing we can do about it now. You want some sugar? Here, I'll give you a little sugar. Eat it now. It'll make you feel better." Devola sat down and took Imogene on her lap and fed her the sugar, and I talked to them about our secret. How we were always to keep the door to Roy Luther's room closed tight and pretend when others came and asked that he was in it, merely sleeping. How we were never to breathe to anyone, not anyone, that Roy Luther had left us. We wildcrafted that day, went back up to Sugar Boy and finished digging all the golden seal and planted about 100 seeds. The sight of the seal bed, which now lay destitute until new plants developed, caused Romy to pause and anxiously look around. "There's got to be more around here somewhere," he said. "But what if there isn't? Then what will we do?" "Romy," I said, "nothing's going to peter out on us. If we don't find another seal bed, we'll take what comes. There's lots of stuff left. Lady Slipper, stargrass, wild ginger, and just a slew of stuff. We haven't even started on any of the barks yet." I declare, I don't know why you feel you've just got to have something to worry about all the time. "We got to get the house fixed up for winter," muttered Romy. "That isn't anything to worry about. We'll do it." "Ha! Do you know how to fix a roof?" "Not yet, but I aim to find out." Menacingly, he thrust his lip to his chest and chest out. "What about school?" "What about it? We going when it starts?" "Sure." "Won't that be dangerous?" "It might be if you don't make any better grades in arithmetic than you did last year." "I hate arithmetic." "That isn't what I meant. I meant, what about leaving Devola and Imogene home alone all day long? Oh my gosh. What if somebody comes looking for Roy Luther and they forget and tell? You know how Devola is. She can't remember her own name unless one of us writes it down for her. What if somebody was to come while you and I were away at school and she forgot and told him? Then what? I don't know. I'll have to figure out something. We got to go to school, huh? Yes, we've got to go to school. You don't want to grow up ignorant, do you? And have people call you a happy pappy. What's a happy pappy? A happy pappy is a poor, no-account mountaineer who sits rocking on the porch of his shotgun shack all day long, waiting for the mailman to bring him his charity check. He's so ignorant that that's all he knows how to do. He hasn't even got sense enough to know that he's not supposed to marry his first cousin and have feeble-minded children. Born blind and deaf, and the Lord only knows what else. Oh my goodness. What's a shotgun shack? A shotgun shack is a shack you shoot a shotgun through and not hit anything. I don't know how anybody could be happy being a happy pappy. Having to live in a shotgun shack with his cousin and a bunch of feeble-minded kids. Observe Romy. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can finish this one. I said, Romy, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Happy pappies aren't happy. They're useless and lonely and sick. They just look happy